Hello, I am Robert Kimathi from LVCT Health, and we are the Oky franchise partner for Kenya. Next. Oky Kenya came as a result of localization of global Oky, and in this case, the entire process was co-created with girls. We began this in our process that we started by designing with the girls, through design research. We purposely looked at the girls across different parts of the country within 8 counties for the 50 girls and 4 boys that gave the boys perspective. The second one we then was market scan, and this looking at the other digital partners that are in existence, the context of understanding the digital context and the opportunities and the potential partners that we can be able to work with during this process. The third was to look at the identity of the girls and the context of the avatars. In that case, we look at the global, and the girls did it in a way that they could be able to look into the hub, and that's how we identified the 4 avatars name across the country. Finally, was to look at the content, in this case, the entire encyclopedia and the content from the global hub, localizing it, adapting it, and in this case, translating it into the local language Swahili by the girls themselves with the approval of the Minister of Health. Next. These are some of the photos. Look at how girls are smiling. Part of it to do with the COVID period, the smiling, the entire process of creating, checking issues of the things that to look about, navigation, look and feel, habitats, and how they want to look. Next. One of the key elements of this entire process is co-creating with the girls. And one was user testing with the girls to get their feel on the user experience. In this case, from the 15 girls from 8 counties in the country, in Kenya, they were categorized and put together in WhatsApp group, because that was the most common mode of communication during the COVID time. And we allowed them to download the global Oky Hub and experience it for at least for a month. So they navigated, they set their calendar, they had a good experience and discussion amongst themselves within, moderated by the girls themselves for at least for a month. So for us, wanted to check the user experience and the navigation. And the second is interface design, how it looks like, the habitats, the look and feel, and how they would relate with it. And the third one is how do they navigate from creating an account registration where they're using more than one phone, and if they have to come back and access their account again. Then we looked at is the user, the girls' feedback on the content from the group 1, which under a great simple English language, but we also wanted to find out from Kenyan context. All of them preference of English, but we found that Swahili is also a language that was preferred, and for us was to go further and work with the girls to translate. And the third one was actually testing the minimum viable product, or the prototype based, in that case, co-designed by girls, and making sure that the suggestion that they gave was included in the MVP, which is the minimum viable product. So the girls took center stage in the entire process and giving us feedback and making sure that that feedback is incorporated in the next version. Next. These are some of the photos with the girls themselves testing. This one of the physical testing in Nairobi. The first one looking at the navigation, the second one, again, the avatars, they looked at all those elements, the content, user experience, this, the design, the feel, how they navigate, how the content is translated in English and Swahili. And those are some of the photos for the Happy Girls testing. Next. In this case, Oky Kenya is actually girl-centered by girls. And we're seeing this, and the end product actually has the girl at the center stage. And for us, we want to incorporate both girls who are in Android and iOS. Those are using both. And in the Android version, we want to pick the most compatible version to allow access, increase access to as many girls as we can. And the second one, we don't want just a text content, but a content that is enjoyable by the girls themselves. In this case, we have gamified the content. There are some quizzes, there's some games within the content that girls hang on as they proceed looking at the content. Also, there's gamification about it. The third is about identity, reflecting and seeing yourself about the avatars. The girls designed avatars. It has African and Kenyan contextualized avatars, so we'll be able to see them in the coming presentation. Then the other element is the functionality. It's, we know, internet, the cost of it across the country. So we wanted also to give girls a product that they can be able to use, even they don't have an access to internet. It only is some update that you have to link with the internet to get that update, but the entire functionality as an offline component. The girl themselves looked at the content from a very rigorous process, from looking at the language, looking at the understanding, looking at how it responds to cultural factors and how they relate with each other in that context. So the entire content was really done by the girls under the approval processes in a very friendly, girl-friendly language by them. Of the key interest also is the help button. It's not only for this, they require some other health support. And this will link them. It has a help button that links to the hotline, for instance, 1190, and the other hotline, the other health facility for the girls to be able to access the services. Next. These are the four avatars. There are quite a number of them, but these are the top four that girls picked for the Oky Kenya. They represent girls across the country. For instance, the first one, Shiko, the Mount Kenya part and the central part of the country. We have Aisha, who represent the coast girls and some of the northeastern part of the girls. Nariaka, who represent the western part of the country. And Naisura, some part of eastern part of the country. So when you look at all the distribution and how girls thought about it, it represents a young modern girl across the different part of the country. So they can be able to self-identify with the habitats when they are navigating and utilizing the hub. Next. In terms of the content, we've discussed with it, but there were three critical elements. So the first one is to look at the global content, localize it, adapt some of the components about it. Then went further, the girls went further and asked themselves, this is only in English in this case. So here is most common language also. And if you have to translate, we have to translate to the level that the girls themselves can identify with it. So went further, they look at it, they translate them that one by girls themselves and some other young people. The second level was actual after translation, is testing and validating across different parts of the country. So if you have translated this, the second part is how do you make sure that it cuts across the same 8 counties. So went further through other youth groups, girls networks, and testing that. And that was done through some design tools, the Jamboard, and some interaction through the WhatsApp group, which was quite effective. After that, the next question was approvals of that content. So we had a very technical review by different technical teams, and of key interest is reviews and approvals by Ministry of Health for it to be used nationally. And we really appreciated the girls and the power, the girls that hand to make sure that that content is not only relatable, but factual at the end of the product. Next. So at the end of all that, this Oky Hub is there for the girls, by the girls, and to make sure that we provide a product that dignifies the girl. We make sure that through the digital health that we have, we harness that opportunity and give the girl the power through this Oky Hub to learn in a fun way, to make sure that they can also manage the menstrual health through the power of their hands. So for this hub, it's for the girls, by girls. And in this case, it will be powered by the girls. Thank you, and we really appreciate everyone who has been part of this process to make sure that Oky Kenya is a reality. Thank you.